A man is seen conversing on the phone with a particular Mr. Park while relaxing with a group of individuals on the beach of an unknown island. Meanwhile, the man on the beach threatens to reveal the corrupt Park Mujin because he is upset with how money was handled. However, just as a storm is about to hit the island, something from the clouds appears and attacks, although a helicopter pilot flying over the island discovers that it has been crushed by a huge hand. Mr. Park continues with his own preparations without further interruption. In the past, when Jean Mori was a child, his grandfather nurtured him until he was old enough to start school. Mori awakens from a dream of the incident in the present, realizing with horror that he overslept. He rides his bicycle through the streets like a lunatic. Mori almost runs over an elderly woman, but he is too enthusiastic about what is going to happen. A martial arts competition for all styles is called the God of High School. The preliminary matches are taking place in Seoul's Corgi Arena. Handui, who just finished his night-shifted work, is among the locals who are anticipating the start of the competition. However, Miss Humura asks a group of martial artists who didn't make the tournament for directions to the arena. She admires their strength as they admire her lovely appearance. While riding his bike all the way to the arena, Mori begins to feel hungry. He learns while traveling that yet another elderly woman has been robbed by an unruly motorcyclist. He is able to see the whole picture of her predicament and chooses to attempt to retrieve her handbag, insisting that the biker stop. Mori is able to keep up with the rider. Mori accidentally crashes his bike into Mira's face while pursuing her. The moment he tries to leave, Mira slashes in with her sword. Mira learns of the predicament, decides to pardon Mori, and joins his crusade to catch the thief. They are able to track down the biker and almost bring him in when Mira crashes into a street sign. When the biker thinks he's made it out unscathed, Dewey shows up, punches the thief off his bike, and quickly puts an end to the chaos. Together, Mori, Mira and Dewey arrive at the arena in time to get ready for the preliminary rounds. The regional qualifiers for the tournament's next phase, which begins in a month, will be decided by this event. Nanomechanes attached to contestants' bodies enable the tournament staff to track their vital signs and assess their physical prowess. However, the contestants are instructed to start fighting by the announcer, but many of them are perplexed. They quickly come to the realization that the preliminary rounds will feature a battle royale between the many participants. As the fighting continues, the strongest combatants stand out from the rest of the group by using their superior fighting techniques. Among those who win the race are Mori, Dewey and Mira. Meanwhile, Mori allegedly engaged in combat with the commissioner who hired him and injured him. The same commissioner sees Mori fight and asserts that everything is going as planned. The other commissioners permitted Gang Mansia, a notorious youngster, to join the conflict late. The commissioners believe he should be defeated due to his violent past. Gang joins the conflict and quickly gains control of those nearby, even intimidating them as she engages Gang in combat. Mira uses her bare-handed moonlight sword style no Deva to try and stop Gang. Despite her best efforts, Gang manages to fend off her attacks before Mori enters to take control of the conflict. However, Mori, Dewey and Mira have made it through the first preliminary round. With the next round coming up, the three of them talk about their reasons for entering the tournament. Mira says she's hoping to find a strong man who can become the successor to her late father's moonlight sword style and rebuild her family's dojo. On the day of the tournament, one of the favorites to win the tournament, Gang Manziak, faces off against Tai Shi user Gogando. The President of the United States questions the mysterious island that was crushed by a giant hand with a cross. Park Mujin enters the building as the President and Mujin interact. After finishing the first preliminary round, Mori, Dewey and Mira are walking back home. Along the way they talk about their reasons for entering the tournament. As Mori gets curious about Mira's sword, he accidentally drops it in the river. However, it causes slight anger in Mira as she slaps him and tells him to leave. Mira looks for her missing sword as her flashbacks show us how important moonlight sword style is to her. Mori comes back with a flashlight to help her search along with Dowie. After bringing an even brighter light to make the search easy, a warm feeling of friendship grows within the trio. The second round for the God of High School starts. Whoever makes it to the end of the tournament will be granted permission to participate in the National God of High School Tournament. The Second round is a bracket formed as participants go one-on-one with each other and make it to the next round as participants are waiting in the waiting room. Tension happens between Go Gambo and Gang Manziak when Gando told Manziak to leave Mori alone. Manziak lets out a quick kick toward Gando while he was off guard. It was a very close kick as Mori pulls Gando back from the fierce kick. The tournament starts as Mor and Miro in their first round along with Sancho and Mizan. A full fight is shown between Gando and Mancia. Gando gets badly injured as Mancia keeps beating him as well as breaking his arms. Mori enters the ring abruptly driven to stop Mancia. Mancia is successfully kicked out of the ring by Mori. Mori is prevented from continuing by the commissioners because he interfered with another match which would have resulted in a penalty. Flashbacks of Mancia's past appear as a mysterious figure grants him power, but he is unable to use Churia. However, Manziak attacks again and Mori rushes to fight him again, but this time he uses Renewal Taekwondo. After knocking Manziak down, Mori gets held down by Nugent as he returns back to Korea. A mysterious cult watches the tournament. Mori faces disqualification until Mujin recognizes Mori's grandfather Jean Tae. Jean Mirat defeats Mimizan, an American female wrestler who entered the tournament seeking men for her harem. Mira reveals her family martial art includes a style which can slice flesh using only fingers. Mori is told he can remain if he beats one of the commissioners, though not the commissioner Mori wants. That night Mori eats a peach. Mujin gave him and immediately vomits blood as it was not a normal peach. Dewey's friend Sante switches to a more expensive medication, so Daly becomes even more determined. He duels Beck Central, who fights with a baseball bat despite painful damage to his organs. Do destroys his bat and knocks Central unconscious. Mori awakens and only just makes it to his fight. He is told he will win if he can push the commissioner to the floor. Then when the commissioner mocks him, he easily pushes him down. Mori is amazed his body feels more powerful, but the commissioner is so angry he activates a supernatural power and summons a clown-like spirit to kill Mori, only stopping after being restrained by his fellow commissioners. Mujin happily confirms Mori is Tajin's tiger cub and swears to take possession of him. While walking home, Mira was approached by OS, a successful businessman and martial artist, asked her to marry him out of nowhere. Even more shocking is that Mira agrees. Mira revealed early that her goal was to bring Moonlight Sword to prominence. Feeling responsible for ensuring that Moonlight Sword has a future, she sees marriage as being the only way to accomplish that. Daewoo feels too outside to intervene. However, Mori doesn't care. He believes that she's making a mistake and aims to stop her. Furthermore, he thinks correctly that Songjin is tricking Mira. At the altar, we get a flashback of Seongjin with the mysterious cult. It's revealed that they want a holy sword that can rule the deity himself and the hand that can draw out that power. This is the reason he wants to marry Mira. Elsewhere, Mori and Daewoo encounter Song Jin's bodyguards. Dewey mostly does the work and intercepts Shang Jin's attack. Mira remembers how she struggled with the burden her father left her. She remembers that he told her that your technique will make your life play out as you wish. Finally coming to her senses, she tells Seong Jin that she can't go through with it. He instantly flips out, revealing his samurai chariot. He attacks Mira with it, cutting her across the abdomen. She seems unharmed and defeats Xiang Jin with her Moonlight Style 06. Despite this defeat, he escapes with the Moonlight Sword. However, Mira believes she no longer needs it. The last 5 minutes pivot dramatically to Daewoo. He watches as his friend dies. This dramatically changes his stoic personality to a more brutal one. First, he beats up the bullies from the store after they mock his friendship. Then he continues his brutality against Mira, shocking everyone including Mori. The fight is quick, with Dewey hitting Mira in the wound she sustained earlier. As she bleeds, Dewey continues to pummel her. The ref finally intervenes as Mira lies in a pool of blood. He walks past Mori and says, "See you in the finals." Mira is likely to be fine considering the healing of Manamakines, at least physically. Dewey's friend, who was allegedly killed, is alive. He is actually just barely surviving. Dewey's goal has always been to earn enough money to help his best friend Woo Sunt, who has an incurable disease. Woo and Daewoo became friends after constantly fighting. Dewey doesn't remember why they began fighting. The clash between Mori and Dewey takes center stage. First, Mori faces Bayan J. Heath, the Brazilian jiu-jitsu user. Unsurprisingly, Mori defeats him easily. If I have an issue with the god of high school It's the fact that too many of the fights aren't interesting despite Dewey's brutal beating of Mira. She doesn't seem to hold any grudges. It doesn't hurt that all her injuries will be healed, but she acknowledges that they simply don't know much about Dewey. The fight between Mori and Dewey starts as an all-out brawl. The battle is more evenly matched than I expected. Mori flashbacks to the aftermath of Dewey's battle with Mira and vows to make him pay. Mori attacks Deli with his triple kick. After knocking him down, Mori reaches his hand out to Dewey. However, Dewey contends that he never considered Mira or Mori to be friends. Elsewhere, Wu dies. Dewey unleashes a barrage of attacks on Mori while remembering the deal he struck with the administrator. First, he must overwhelmingly win the semifinals, then the finals. Park Mukbang wants to see what Mori has to offer and is manipulating Daly to this end. However, when Park tells him that Wu died, he appears to lose his desire to fight. Park hopes to find out who he truly is by telling him. Suddenly, Mira interrupts the fight to give Daly a letter from Wu. The contents of the letter renewed Dewey's spirit. After a spirited and visually stunning battle, Mori wins with his blue dragon kick. A shadowy figure calls the tournament boring, considering that Seoul was one of many tournaments. I wonder if we'll get to see the others. The fight between Dewey and Mori was as expected. However, the art style shifts dramatically towards the end. The thin ink outline was specifically confusing. It was difficult to distinguish from Dewey and Mori while introducing new characters and upping the stakes. The Nox organization enters the picture, assassinating two members of the God of High School organization. Meanwhile, Park Moo Jin's calls for the elite group of fighters, the Six. We also get a glimpse of the power that Jin's grandfather possesses as he defeats several men from Nox. The most interesting aspect of this episode was the reveal that Shim Bong said the ref was blinded by the moonlight sword. It felt like he would become Myra's master, but he is quickly killed off camera by a Nox assassin. The National High School Tournament begins with Group R. Trio Team Seoul faces off against Team from North Junction. The team format is simple. Each team will fight one-on-one with the first team to reach 2 wins. Moving on, Jin fights first against Na. However, when he tried his new pressure points to strengthen his attacks, he paralyzed himself. He's defeated by now. It's an unexpected and funny moment. This tournament is making it clear that we can't assume Jin will win every match. Elsewhere, the assassin from Nox, Drake McDonald, is gloating about killing the judge Q. However, his arm is severed by Key's cherry up Joker. Meanwhile, Dewey fights the 38-year-old high schooler Jean Pumwon. He dominates Delhi with powerful attacks he mastered doing physical labor. We get the backstory of the Chungcheong team anyway. Pumwon possesses a chariot named Thor's Hammer. However, Daly destroys it with his blue azure dragon. The hammer vanishes and Pungwang faints, handing Daly the win. Meanwhile, Judge Q and Drake fight, with the former using a sight Q cuts off the other arm. However, Drake's cherry yucca caterpillar regenerates and Judge Q isn't concerned and attacks. However, he's interrupted before he can make the death blow. The two intruders are called Priest Exley and Priest Saturn. Impatient Hugh attacks with a deck of cards. Priest actually develops wings and carries Priest Saturn to the air. Saturn then calls several hands from a shadow in the ground. However, manifesting his sight Q begins cutting them. However, he eventually gets bound, actually releases a sword and comes in for the final attack. However, he's rescued by Jojo, though he doesn't seem to need it. Elsewhere, the battle between Mira and Jang Jangi, both are armed with wooden swords. Jamie releases that Mira is a superior sword user. She releases her chariot. We switch back to the fight between Judge O and Saturn, armed with a gun shaped like a cross that shoots pink lasers from pink teddy bears. Meanwhile, Jojo reveals his chariot is a dragon after Q gains an advantage over Exley. We are swiftly returned to the fight between Mira and Jang. Using her light sword chariot, Jang prepares to win, but Mira uses moonlight sword style number 23. Wind Willow and shatters Jang's sword, knocking her out. Team Soul wins. We shift back to the battle between the judges and priests. The judges seem to get the upper hand, forcing Priest Exley and Saturn to flee. Still present, Drake's head explodes. Park believes there's a mole in their organization since the administrator's addresses are secret. He's informed that Jean Tajin has gone missing. Meanwhile, the second match begins. Jiggle Talk and Jan Jugak face off. Jiggle Talk brutalizes John with his Megalovan chariot that crushes the latter, leaving a pool of blood. Both John teammate and Dare We interfere in the beatdown. Park refused to disqualify Jiggle Talk because he may be the key. However, the second matchup begins between South Jayla and South Chanchan. Park Sungda faces off against Nam Gungdo after discussing strategy with her team. Park KOs Nand with a powerful kick to his jaw. The most important member of the team is Park LPO. Mira and Delwi discussed Park and his team. It's revealed that Dewey has been suspended due to interfering with the fight with Jiggle Talk. The final fight between Park LPO and Gwengai. However, Mori quickly notices a logo on the back of Park LPO after some rude trash talk from Jai. Park tells him that he can't win. He releases his aura attempting to scare Guy, however it fails. Park uses Takyang. He hurts Jai and decides to release his chariot. Park continues to use his tech and dodging Guy's attacks. He strikes Jai in the face with a kick, knocking him out. Mori remembers the logo as being one like the military symbol his grandfather wore. On the way home, the trio discusses the tournament and the need for them to get stronger. Mori doesn't want anyone else's power. Of course, he's much stronger than Delwi and Mira, so he may not need such power. However, Park and Mori meet, and after sparring quickly, Park mentions that he wears the jacket to honor Mori's grandfather. In flashbacks, Park remembers the death of his father and the abandonment by his mother. Feeling abandoned and alone, he meets Jin, who has a baby Mori strapped to his chest. He gives Park a book of Tachyon secrets. That moment changed Park's life, and he feels that he owes him everything. Suddenly, Mori is attacked by Jiggle. Park blocks it with his bare hand, drawing blood. After warning Mori, he leaves, promising not to hold back next time. The next day, Judge Q attacks Park Mujin for allowing Simbongs, his wife and kid, to die, although Park easily defeats Q, leaving him with the bill for the destruction he's caused. We learned that Banks's wife and child are alive, having been replaced with the marionette by Judge P. Later, Hugh runs into Dewey, who offers to cook for him in exchange for training Mujin, and the judges prepare for an attack by Nox. Mujin allows the commissioners to release their limiters and weed out the traitors. Both the Nox and Mujin mention God a lot. However, Mori remembers the last time he saw his grandfather. It was on his 6th birthday. Saddened, Mori tells his grandpa that he doesn't want any friends or needs any friends. His grandfather says that's ridiculous. After that, Mira and Dewey arrive to celebrate with Mori. They eat, play and share cake. It's a sweet moment, especially because Mori seems to be genuinely lonely. The following morning, Mori receives a letter with a picture of his grandfather in chains. Mori rushes to find his grandfather. The tournament has reached the quarter-final stage, however, with Dewey suspended and Mori missing. They're in trouble. Judge P tells Mira and Dowie that the match will begin in 5 minutes, and if Mori doesn't show, they forfeit. Mira opens against Lee Marin, a dark-skinned bald guy that fights in a thong. Elsewhere, Mori reaches the abandoned warehouse where he locates his grandfather. Meanwhile, Mira struggles to land direct hits on Marin due to the latter are being covered in tanning oil. Marin attempts to suplex Mira, but she stops him by striking him in the stomach. Suddenly, Marin's teammate tosses Myra's sword. Heat and Mira clash with Marin, breaking her sword. He reveals the sword's true power. It's a metal sword that resembles a yin and yang symbol, where the sword and hilt made. Marin calls it the national treasure function, and it's a weapon of the deity. Mira manages to get the sword from Marin, but it teleports back to him as he is the owner. Mori tries to wake his grandfather, however it turns out that his grandpa was a fake, and it blows up. A mysterious man apologizes for killing Mori. He merely wanted to stop the key from awakening. Unfortunately for him, Mori gets up more and stabs Mira through the stomach. Meanwhile, Dewey battles against one of the South Gyeong Sing team members. She's a weird fighter that wears an outfit similar to the one Bruce Lee wore in Game of Death. Meanwhile, their fight is cut short when Jiggle Talk interferes. While fighting, Mori learns that the real Jeju teen was killed by the Nox. Mori stands up and applies several pressure points that stop him from Feeling pain meanwhile Mira is up against it, but she refuses to lose, but Formarin hits her with a finishing blow. She hears the voice of the great hero Lubu function. Determined to get stronger, he lends her his power, becoming a chariot. Marin responds with his own chariot. Kraken Mira evades the attacks from Kraken, countering with Feng Tian Huajai. She wins then collapses as Mori catches her with Mori in a tendency. And now begin their battle. Mori quickly dominates, then he attacks with his move Blue Dragon Kick. However, it's not enough, so he uses another original move, Twin Blue Dragon Kick. However, the key was revealed. Park Mujin and the Nox organization have been seeking this key. The key is supposed to have the power to challenge deities, so Park wants to use it and Nox wants to destroy it. Park Elpio is the key, a noble fighter that was inspired by Mori's grandfather. We discovered that Elpio wants to use his wish to heal his cousin that was left paralyzed by Jiggle. In flashbacks we see that Jin's grandfather Jin Tae-jin told Elpio to teach Mori a couple of things. He does just that. When he and Jin fight in the semifinals, he starts off taunting Jin, critiquing his fighting style and besting him in close combat. Mori overcomes each of these limits by using the techniques of Mira and Dewey. Just when you think that Jin is going to get the comeback victory, it's his apparent defeat that triggers his ascension to the key. How will Elpio handle being hunted while all this was happening? When saw battles between Nox's Sang Mandut and Park Mujin, saw the skills of the six-member Seal Halian accompanied by music and witness a deity fall through a gate in the sky. All this was visually stunning while being action-packed. The drumming from Haliang's taiko drum corps added to the atmosphere. However, this is where the tale of the Nine Tails was told. The fox spirit spent its early years in heaven and eventually attained power. After a millennium of training, the deity began to be guarded by the Nine Tails, but as a result of his strength, deity eventually started to fear him. It therefore decides to kill the fox. The Nine Tails were furious and used their power to obliterate half of heaven before fleeing to earth and pledging to exact revenge. Jin and Elpio are still at odds. Elpo has increased his speed and strength with his new abilities. He starts to overpower Jin but appears to be in pain from the change. After that, Jin learns from the fight that Chariot isn't about borrowing someone else's power, because you're still using your mind and body to fight. Elpio summons numerous firefoxes and engages in combat, invoking his chariot, a thunder-wielding deity of some sort. Jin appears to be doing so. It's unclear who it is or if it belongs to the chariot race in any case, and uses a whirlwind to vanquish Elpio. Meanwhile, Park Mujin speculates that Mandyak is still preparing something in another place. Jan Jugak. Is this something he transforms into a demonic-like creature that eats other people, gaining strength in an effort to save Sungdet and Ryu Hyanbok? Elpo attacks Jin. Jiggle steps in and says he won't let Jin take his prey. Elpio Sungdet loses a leg and Ryu loses an arm as Jiggle defeats Jim. Elpio is a pulse and irrational. When he lets go of his chariot, Jiggle is thrown out the window. Park Mujin declares that the god of high school is over. In the meantime, however, saying Mandio calls upon a deity to end the world. The competition was cancelled by Park Mujin. The U.S. government launches nuclear weapons towards Seoul out of concern that things are getting out of hand. The loss of innocent lives is disregarded in this act. Park Ilpo and Jiggle Talk are still fighting, with Jiggle consuming Ilpio and releasing the key. Things become chaotic when the most coveted key finally appears. The six deities, Agent and Jin Mori, all fumble around for the key. Jin comes out on top. All the children are teleported to a secure location by Park Mujin. Jin receives the key from Elpio, who instructs him to keep Jiggle out of it. However, Jiggle shows up where Park Mujin teleported Jin and the other people. Dave, White and Mirat decline to assist him when he requests to know where the key is. He chooses to murder them. Mirat and Dewey turn on their respective chariots. Jiggle defeats Mirat and Deli off screen. Jiggle and Jin argue. In the meantime, Jan Jezin of the Six teleports every Seoul resident away from peril. Jan uses his alchemy to destroy the nuclear weapons and turn them into a statue in an effort to exact revenge for his grandson. A meteor-like object that he also summons explodes after being teleported back to Seoul. Jin and the others encounter the deceased deity. Jin gives the key to Tak, who then consumes it. Then, after being reborn, he develops from a baby to a man before gaining angelic wings and becoming a deity. Jiggle meanwhile turns into a deity. Only Jin, Mori, Hyundai Week and Yumura stands as an opposition. First, Mira is attacked by Jiggle, who then throws her onto Delway. Even though the two make a great effort, they ultimately fall short. A confrontation between Jean and Jiggle was always going to take place in this episode. However, Dewey, Mira, Elpio, Sunga and Jean explode in rage over the attack on their friend's pressure points are used by him, but it's insufficient. Jean is being pursued by Jiggle, who is still using his chariot and an energy spear. Jean becomes a deity after Dewey receives the blow, which causes Jean to ascend. Mike's presumption was that Jin would get a chariot like everyone else. The Monkey King, it turns out, is a deity. Meanwhile, Jin has been strongly influenced by Sun Wukong. He makes effective use of the Niobe, adjusting its size and shape as he swings it. Jean dominates Jiggle and strikes him with a terrible lightning strike. Jiggle changes into an evil creature and attacks Mira. Dewey and Jean Ilpo follow suit. Jean teams up with Mira, Dewey and Ilpio for a group assault after they all activate their chariots. Giga leaves a piece of the key behind before vanishing. Our trio got what they wanted. Jean wants to make the fighters' bodies whole again to recover sight and Tice's memories. Jin, Daly and Mira will travel to his home country. The Key's keeper Elpio must traverse the globe to gather every component. Finally, Jin's grandfather is still trapped by the Nox. At this point, we have reached the end of our video. Wait for us in the next part. If you like the video, do not forget to press the like button and subscribe to the channel to get more new videos.